Well, welcome everybody. We're here in It's Black History Conversations again. This is the 124th edition of Black History Conversations, if we can call them editions. Um, and 10 seasons, the last of 10 seasons, which has just been remarkable. I'm Liz Millman from Learning Nicks International. We've got Simon Fringo here also, and Garrick Prayog from Justice for Windrush Generations as well, colleagues who helped me to run these sessions. I'm so grateful. Also, June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gully, it's great that you're here. And our other guests, we've got Rose Johnson, who delighted us last week telling us about your book, and we'll let you do a bit of PR again this time. It's wonderful. On my screen, I'm just going around in order. Vivian Crawford, Dr. Vivian Crawford, it's great that you've joined us from Jamaica, and your colleague, Jonathan Greenland. Jonathan is the director of the museums in Jamaica and lots of other responsibilities. So great that you've taken time to meet us this morning. Jonathan, I'm very grateful. We've also got with us Nigel Sadler, who joined us a few weeks ago. Nigel's got lots of experience working in museums and all sorts of research that you've undertaken, and your Sons of Time consultancy is a great website to find out lots of information. We've also got Helen Papworth joined us as well. Helen's been a long time supporter of ours. She lives in North Wales. When we first started the Black History Conversations, we were very much focused on North Wales because we were replacing our Black History Month conference. That's how it started. We couldn't hold that because it was COVID lockdown times. It was after the time of George Floyd's murder, and we really felt that we needed to find a way of exploring a lot more about Black history stories, and that's how it started way back in October 2020. So yeah, a long time since. And also we are welcoming Angelina Osbourne, who is the joint author of a brilliant book that I have my copy here. It made it into my case. Not everybody's book made it into my case this time, or I would have been well over the limit. So I'm just going to start with the PowerPoints and the formalities of organising a session here in where I'm based at the moment, which is in Australia. So let's just go back to our first slide, and we'll just take it from there. So okay then. So we're starting the session this morning. This afternoon, this evening, whenever it is for you, and we're going to have a chat with a number of you who've supported Black History Conversations, but also especially welcoming Angelina Osbourne. And I'm not at all sure that Patrick Vernon's going to squeeze in a quick visit in his busy timetable, but we have invited him to as
Sorry to
co.
interrupt, Liz. He is unfortunately not able to join us today.
Right. Okay, thank you very much for that. And we're also going to bring in a special update on Christmas at Penryn Castle and Christmas in Pennants, Jamaica. So that's a theme that we follow through a lot. And the North Wales Jamaica Society, we've got Garrick Prayog here, who's now chair of the North Wales Jamaica Society. We're looking to ways that we can work with the National Trust at Penryn Castle to better tell the story of the plantation ownership of the family. And we've also got very close links with the community in Pennants, Jamaica. And I'm not sure if anyone will join us from there, but we're pleased that we've got Dr. Vivian Crawford with us, who's going to be perhaps representing that community. Now, at 2:30, wherever you are, 2:30 maybe in the UK, 9:30 in Jamaica, 1:30 in the morning for me, we're going to be joined by Kerry from Penryn Castle. And at that point, I think we'll probably let her come in first, because she's got a very limited time and had prepared something specially for us, and then I'd forgotten. So apologies there. So we look forward to greeting her then. So I'm just moving myself on here and I find the thing. Because I'm in Australia, it's the norm and respectful to acknowledge the first people of Australia. And Black History Conversations also acknowledges the injustice of the actions taken by British and other European countries that invaded and took possession of the islands in the Caribbean Sea, as well as the continents of North and South America. In addition, we also recognise the exploitation of the great continents of Africa, Asia, Australia, and many other parts of the world in the centuries of colonialisation and ongoing exploitation. And we acknowledge that this resulted in the destruction and destabilisation of so many nations, peoples, and cultures. And remembering as well that we're still within the International Decade for People of African Descent. So over the years, a great deal's been done. Do we know what's been done? I think what we're going to plan to do, or we are planning to do in 2024, is to explore a little bit more about that work and the importance of that initiative. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a couple of examples here of the sort of way that we do honour the people of the country. I'm now on a committee at the local cultural centre called Beringia, and so I thought I'd just share the way that they honour First Australians who operate on the Wurundjeri country, which is the country that I'm on now. So we acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as traditional custodians and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. It's through valuing their history, traditions, culture and beliefs that we strive to stimulate awareness and promote respect for Indigenous contemporary art and culture and create a more positive future for Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities together. So that's the way that Beringia honour. And also in a local primary school, I saw this beautiful, large illustration which says, "Welcome, Waminjeka. We proudly acknowledge the traditional owners of this land on which we teach, learn and grow." Excuse me. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the Kulin Nation. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Okay then, right. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. Excuse me, I've got a cough tonight. Right, okay, I need to just do something to check. Okay, Angela, I wonder if it'll be possible, perhaps if you introduce yourself first, and then Kerry will arrive, and then perhaps you can come back in again. So I just wanted to share the screen there. And just to say, Angelina, I found this link to the Black Country Links to Transatlantic Enslavement, your report. So that's a really important one because I spent a lot of time in Wolverhampton. So without any more ado, Angelina, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us what you're about now and about this incredible book and how you came to put together so much wonderful information.
Sure. Thanks, Liz. Thank you very much for inviting me to Black History Conversations this afternoon here in London. It's 2:20. I'm very pleased to be here and to meet all of you today. My name's Angelina. I am a independent historian. I have worked at different institutions, but I work mainly as a freelance historical researcher and heritage consultant. I got my doctorate in history about, gosh, it's nine years ago now. It's really trotted on very quickly, from the University of Hull, the Wilberforce Institute for the Study of Slavery and Emancipation. My doctoral thesis was on the West India Committee, which is an 18th century lobby group who worked certainly from 1788 up until 1833 to either prevent the abolition of the trade and trafficking in African people, and then later on they campaigned to make sure to continue the institution of enslavement in the Caribbean. So my thesis was about that organization, how it was structured, types of lobbying that it undertook, and different kinds of discourses that it engaged in to convince people of the importance of enslavement, of slavery in the Caribbean, to the wealth and the power of the British Empire. I have been working in the heritage field probably for about a little over 20 years now. I'm working on a range of different projects around history and memory and citizenship, how people remember enslavement in the UK. I also have researched a lot around the African and Caribbean presence in the UK. So yeah, that's really essentially what I do. With regards to the 100 Great Black Britons, that's really sort of a project that's been that's sort of like 20 years in the making. In 2003, actually late 2002, I was approached by Patrick Vernon, who had this idea to do a list of 100 Great Black Britons. The reason being is that in 2002 there had been this huge BBC campaign, some of you may remember, called the Great Britons. It was broadcast over, I think, a monthly period. It was the flagship programming for BBC Two at the time. And they wanted the public to vote on who they thought was the greatest Briton. In that list of 100 people, the only person of colour, I would argue, was actually Freddie Mercury. There were no people of Asian heritage, there were no people of African heritage that were even in the list, not the list of 100, and it was polled by the whole country. We thought it was very interesting. The argument for the BBC was that if the list was done in 100 years' time, there'd be more people of African and Asian descent to be on the list. And we thought that was, quite ludicrous, because we know historically there has been an African presence in the British Isles since the Roman period. And we also know that through amazing list of so many different people, so many educationalists, so many researchers and campaigners had been doing wonderful and amazing and important research on the African Caribbean presence in the UK for many, many years, and they had uncovered so much information that was relating to people of African and Caribbean heritage living, working, campaigning in the UK. It seemed that these people had clearly made not enough of an impression, but when we looked back, we found that they'd made huge impressions in their time. The problem being that there's really doesn't seem to be certainly not a political will or even cultural will to want to include these lives, these stories into the national consciousness, into the public consciousness. So we took it on ourselves to do our own poll. So we did a poll, we made a website called 100 Great Black Britons. It was very well received. It really kind of caught people's attention. And we, back then in the poll, it was Mary Seacole that was voted the greatest Black Briton. Certainly since that time, a lot more has been researched, a lot more has been written about the African and Caribbean presence. Now, this year, late last year, beginning of this year, Professor Hakim Adi has written a wonderful comprehensive history of African and Caribbeans in Britain. And he has really kind of done an amazing feat of scholarship, bringing together all of the histories and all of the research that has been done by himself and by other scholars. I really encourage you to get this book and to read it. It is absolutely fantastic. It's a really amazing piece of work. It was nominated for the Wolfson Prize in history this year. It did not win, but it was nominated. This is this continuous uncovering of African and Caribbean people doing in the UK is definitely kind of challenges, undermines this assumption, this belief that there were no Black people in Britain before 1948. So really, that's the kind of work that I've been doing, and that's how the book came to kind of. The book is really kind of a second iteration. The website was, as I said, very successful for many years. I think it's archived now, but you can still access it, and I know that a lot of schools still access it. We were then approached a few years ago by Little Brown Publishers, who asked us if we would write a book. And so that's what we did, not with the intention of it's not a ranking, it's not about ranking people who's at top, who's at bottom. We just sort of had a couple of consultations, and we were like, we want to put 100 people in this book. Some of them will be on the original list, and some of them might be new people that we'd know about, and some contemporary people. And I then got to work. I got to work on researching these individuals, and I was very much helped in doing that research by a lot of people, new research that has come up, helped inform the book. But the book it's by no means, it's very subjective, isn't it? You can say there's 100 people. It's just about 100 people. It's not saying these are, it's really kind of a beginning of a conversation. It's a really kind of more of a kind of a popular book, just to encourage people who seem to have very little idea or understanding about the African Caribbean presence in the UK. And it's really just to encourage them to do more research. This is, they'll read about the people that we've featured in the book, and they'll be like, okay, this is from my region, this person's from my area. I want to know more. I want to know more about about African Black Britons. I want to know more. And that's really what the book was for. It was to be kind of like a reference kind of book, to educate and to a little bit to entertain a little bit. And that's really what we were trying to do, was just trying to keep people mindful of our contribution. So yeah, that's really what I want to say about the book. It's been very well received. I think it's still selling quite well, and we may do another edition. Who knows?
But it's really fascinating. Thank you so much for giving that insight. Angelina, can you just say the book that you recommended, so that everybody knows that
Yes,
one?
of course. Let me just grab it.
All right, okay, that's even better. And welcome, Kerry. It's lovely to see you with us now. Lovely.
So I don't know if you can see that, but that's the book.
Right, okay.
It's Hakim Adi's book. It's called African and Caribbean People in Britain, a history. It's quite a heft. It's before endnotes. It's about 520 pages, so it goes from Roman periods right up to 2020, and it is absolutely. I mean, I'm not getting paid here to tell you about Hakim. I'm really not. What I will say is that I reviewed it for an academic journal, so I had to read the whole thing, and I was absolutely blown away by Scott. Hakim Adi is one of the best scholars we have on history, Black history, without a doubt. And unfortunately, he's not being treated very well by the Academy. They have very little respect for the work that he does. I'm sorry to say, because when this book was coming out, he was made redundant by University of Chichester, who claimed that his MRes was not of any was not bringing in the revenue that which was completely false, and it wasn't attracting enough students. It was, I mean, the opportunity in that MRes was to really research really under-researched aspects of British history that people, and it really kind of empowered those and encouraged those MRes students to go on to do PhDs. One of them who's doing this amazing, I think amazing, well, so many amazing ones on sort of Rastafari movement, on Claudia Jones, on different political movements of the 1930s, people like George Padmore, really, really stuff that is not, histories and people that are just really under-researched and, under-considered. So, yeah, if you, please, if you can get it, just do, because you will be really blown away by its scholarship.
Well, thank you so much for that. And yes, it is extremely concerning to be hearing the reports as to the despicable way that Hakimad is being treated. I'm not up to speed on it, I'm sure. June Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you very much, Angelina. I was going to buy that book last week. I was at the Black Cultural Archives and introduced Liz to Lisa, but instead I bought this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because I had 3 different bags and a suitcase, and I had to go to Parliament, right? So I had a little bag on my back, and I couldn't get anything else in. But I echo you, because a few years ago I met Akeem, and he introduced me to the Black Asian Studies Association, BASA. So I joined that. But then I also had him as a guest speaker. We had a Black History conference in Northampton University. He's excellent. I've been to so many of his speeches. And I was talking about him yesterday, and I said to someone, well, look what they've done to the first Black professor. I know we've got a Professor Jeff Palmer, but Hakeem is it Chichester?
Yeah. Yes, it was Chichester. We also do have Professor Olivette Otele at SOAS.
Yes. And I'm just so sad, But thank you very much for I've got the 100 Black Britons. I got the week it came out, and I contacted Lloydie Coxon because he didn't realise he was in it, for him to get one as well.
Oh,
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, I'm just going to welcome Kerry Williams. She's joined us from the National Trust in Penrhyn Castle, North Wales. Welcome, Kerry. It's good that you're with us.
Hi,
okay.
Hi everyone.
So just before, I'd just like to say, Angela, thank you so much. So this is a conversation between us all. So what we're going to do next is a bit special. Then I'm going to ask Kerry if she'll do her presentation. And then I'm hoping, Angelina, we can carry on talking with you because you've given us some really good information so far. But if that would work for us, because we've got with us someone who's just had a really special award. So I'm just going to ask, well, I shall just share my screen again and say congratulations to Dr. Vivian Crawford. Vivian's with us today, and this Vivian is one of the awards that we're giving for, we called it Black History Heroes first. We might change that, who knows, it depends who we're recognising. And Marika Sherwood was the first person that we recognised specially. Marika had her challenges, so there were special reasons why we did that earlier in season 10. But on hearing that that you have received this doctorate, Dr. Vivian Crawford, I am just so delighted for you. And I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit about it in a moment. So for making such a significant contribution to raising the awareness about Jamaican history and culture and making us smile so often. even though the stories can be very hard to tell. Also, Dr. Vivian Crawford, thank you so much for your support with the Pennants Project and for chairing the Pennants Heritage Research Group. This is a particularly important initiative, and I'm sure Kerry will be really interested to have this opportunity to meet you today. So you've lifted our spirits and you've demonstrated the resilience of Jamaicans who've overcome so many obstacles to be such a proud and resilient people today. So congratulations to you, Vivian Crawford, Dr. Vivian Crawford. That's just amazing.
Wow. Liz, I'm overcome. I want to thank you and the committee and all our colleagues here. We could perhaps have found other things to do, but for this cause to make planet Earth a better place, we find the time to work together, to share our joys and our sorrows. And in this journey together, I want to thank you. You had asked me, Liz, just yesterday to speak about the space from which the award was given. The impression is sometimes given that everyone was for slavery, and enough of the other side of the story is not told. Because in the 1830s, well, of course, in the 1750s, the Moravian church in St. Elizabeth, then it's now in Westmoreland, but then in St. Elizabeth, the Foster brothers invited Europeans to come and teach the enslaved. And they started under trees at a place called Rose Corner, Alligator Pond, St. Elizabeth. Then they move to Littis, and this is where the first primary school building in Jamaica was built. And they also built the community a tank so that people could have access to water, because of course St. Elizabeth is a dry parish. But I hasten to say that in the 1838, when slavery was to be abolished, an Anglican minister, an Englishman, Reverend John True, from Mandeville Parish Church, he wrote these letters to England asking for help to teach the enslaved. And one of the letters caught the attention of Sir Thomas Fowell Buxton, whose memorial I saw in Westminster Abbey. And perhaps modesty doesn't allow me to say that his bust of him is at the Michael College. And years ago, I was passing and noticed that the nose was vandalized. And I did a fundraising activity to restore it and to put plexiglass over it. But this Reverend True, as I said, the letter caught the attention of Sir Thomas Fowell Buxton, who identified money in the British House of Commons from the Lady Michael Trust. And Sir Thomas identified Reverend True to be the first director of the Michael. And when Jamaica's first university, the Queen's, collapsed, they merged now with the Michael, and the rest is history. In closing, because I could speak in keeping with my height, I'm a very tall person. But in closing, I should say that out of that Michael, as I was speaking, it just dawned on me. There are two Anglican bishops who went to the practicing school. Bishop Gibson was the first Jamaican to be the head bishop of Jamaica. And there was a Reverend Don Taylor, who was at the Church of St. John in New York. And one of the things they taught us about life, I was an elementary school teacher, treat every child as a king or a queen. You do not know which one is going to wear the crown. And what Liz is doing for us today, and the days ahead, and the days past, and you have joined her. History will tell the story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. That's just brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen again, just to say yes again, congratulations, brilliant, and thank you for explaining that history. It's really important, and we really value all the times that you share the stories. Now, if you are interested, and I'm sure you may well be, Dr. Vivian Crawford was invited by the Grace Kennedy Foundation to do the 2021 lecture, and that's Jamaica's tangible and intangible heritage, so much to tell. And we actually sent that out to everybody on our mailing in 2021 as a Christmas gift. So maybe we'll share that again this time.
With a mango, with a mango.
With a mango, yes, with a mango. Now, it's really important that we take this opportunity to recognise you, and I really wanted to come over. So I was in downtown Kingston in 2018, and we got close to the Institute of Jamaica. It was really exciting, and we went into the Institute of Jamaica, such a prestigious building, and met up with you. I was a bit overawed. There you were in your office with other colleague there. Do you remember this?
Bernard
And
Yankee, yes.
Bernard Yankee there, yes. And there's the Welsh Dragon who was accompanying me on that trip, and then congratulations, I was able to
Ah,
give you an
Liz.
award. This was a nice smart badge to celebrate that special year,
Oh my God.
since the first time I ever met you, which was on the phone, I was introduced to you, if you remember, by Dotsy Gordon,
Yes.
and we sang the Welsh national anthem together, you in Jamaica and me in the UK.
Da, 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 da.
Thank you so much. So we've laughed together ever since, despite the fact that we've talked about some really serious stuff. And a couple of years before that, we were over, and we with Yasser Safari, who's been such an enormously significant supporter of the work that we've done to build bridges between Jamaica and particularly North Wales. There's the Dragon starring again. And also there's Bernard too. So I'm not quite sure what the next one is. Back to us again. This is who we are today. So yes, so that was fun. And I
Thank you,
found.
Liz. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you very much indeed. And Jonathan, I think you were in one of those meetings too, so I'll have to look back to the photographs again. So I have to say we've applied to the wonderful Welsh Government, to the Tithe project, and we're hoping that 2024 will see a number of folks travelling over to Jamaica to research the Pennant story, and also folks from Jamaica coming back to North Wales when they'll be coming to meet with you, Kerry. And just to welcome Jacqueline Pennant with us. Jacqueline joins us from the States. We're delighted you're with us, Jackie, and we very much appreciate your support and interest. And obviously, with your surname, you've got direct links to that Pennant family that we talk about very often. So what I'm going to do now, Kerry, I've made it possible for you to share the screen, so that should be okay. And Kerry, welcome as your role in charge of proceedings at Penryn Castle at the moment. I'm not quite sure what your title is.
Yeah, are you able to see that?
I am, yes, that's fine. And
Great.
this is a lovely opportunity, Kerry, to welcome you to Black History Conversations, and also to look forward. We've got on the screen with us now Garrick Prayog. He is the chair of the North Wales Jamaica Society now, so he'll be meeting with you, I'm sure, at some stage. But this is to take us to a different space, because we are looking forward to Christmas, and you're going to tell us about Christmas pastimes at Penryn Castle. So over to you, Kerry.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Liz, for inviting me here to be a part of your meeting. So yeah, I'm Kerry Williams. I'm the General Manager for Castell Pendon. I've been here for over a year now, so still getting to grips with this huge building and how we can share different stories associated with it. So I'm really pleased to be here with you all. But what I'm going to be talking about today is the Christmas offer that we have put in place for our visitors who visit us over the Christmas period. Now, I'm really lucky. I've got a great team of people who work here and have worked really hard to put this Christmas offer in place. So what we've done is we've looked at Christmas pastimes. So in particular, kind of looking at people's hobbies over Christmas and that everyone kind of likes to spend time with family and do some different activities that maybe they don't get the opportunity to do a lot of during the year. So what we've tried to do is put in a bit of a tour of the house, but using these different hobbies in different rooms. I think my favourite is probably the scrapbooking that they've put in place, because that just looks like a really nice, relaxing activity. So they've put in a really nice offer in all of the rooms. They've also decorated with Christmas trees and some homemade Christmas decorations made by our staff team and volunteers. And this takes visitors on a journey through the house. So they start off in the kitchen, where they get to smell some Christmassy smells from the cooking that would have happened there, and see some traditional decorations in the kitchen area and learn about the story of the people who worked at Pendon as well. We've also welcomed a couple of schools in for the first time for a Christmas offer since the COVID pandemic meant that we had to close. So it was really great to get some school children in. It was particularly nice because I could hear them through my window, having lots of conversations and obviously lots of fun as well. So yeah, the Christmas offer includes all of these rooms. So in the kitchens, we're looking at celebrating cooking, and we've got some recipe cards for some traditional Christmas food. We have the seasonal scrapbooking, which, like I say, was my favourite in the ebony room. And in the library, they've got some really nice offer of hearing some toy trains moving around in the library. In the drawing room, you could do some crafting with homemade pom-poms, which a lot of people are really enjoying. And again, in the butler's pantry, they've been enjoying making crafts, looking at making Christmas cards. And we have some bilingual Christmas cards so people can practice their Welsh as well. And then we've got a really nice offer of some games for everyone to sit down in the cafe and have some games together at the end. And in the garden, we have an amazing wreath, which our brilliant volunteers and staff put together over, I think it was 2 or 3 days. It was quite a feat to put it all together so that people can walk down to the walled garden as well and enjoy the outdoors while they're with us. So I'm very lucky in that my colleague has put a video together, and I'm hoping this is going to work so that you can actually see it. So I'll put myself on mute if I can, and I'll play the video.
I think you might have muted the sound as well.
Okay. So that is the Christmas offer at Penryn this year. So Nadolig llawen I chi gyd.
Nodding llawen to you as well.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
It's hard to speak in some ways of Penryn Castle when we look at its history and its relation to Black history. But thank you so much. You presented that beautifully, and it's important that the local community feel welcome and comfortable to come into the castle. And it's wonderful to know that the schools are coming back in again, because that must have been so difficult for you not to engage with the local children. Penryn Castle was built with wealth that was generated from plantations in Clarendon, Jamaica, and one in Westmoreland. It's a story that we've explored. We are still exploring, and we have been exploring, because there's a great deal more to understand about how that wealth was generated and the history of the family. And I know that you're keen to work with us to see how the North Wales Jamaica Society, as I say, Garrick's with us today, which is great, how we'll be able to find ways to further explore and share the history. Now, on Thursdays, we have a Penance Project meeting every Thursday. And for a year, we've been exploring what the needs of the community are and how we can best approach the Douglas Pennant Family Foundation to see how they can help to address some of those issues and challenges. Because as part of their charitable aim, they talk about meeting educational challenges in Jamaica. So I was delighted to be able to report back yesterday, and Vivian Crawford was at the meeting with me, with members of the Pennants community, that we have. No, don't get too excited. I've pressed the button and we've applied. Okay, so that's as far as we've got. We haven't heard back yet, but it's been quite a long and tortuous process, just to explain. And the reason behind that is that it's really difficult to get a consensus of what the community wants, and so the sessions are led by the Pennants Community Development Committee, and they've been absolutely wonderful. And the other challenge is how is the money actually transferred from North Wales or wherever the Pennant family have their Douglas Pennant family have their funds over to Jamaica. So at the moment, Dr. Vivian Crawford is supporting us, and he has been in touch with the Jamaica National senior management to talk to them, because this is an extremely important project. This is a reparation project. We've got support from colleagues at the University of the West Indies, Professor Vereen Shepherd, and they're letting us explore how this can happen, because examples of community reparation are quite unusual being done at this level. But we've also in season 11 on later in January, we've got Laura Trevelyan joining us. Now, Laura Trevelyan set up the Heirs of Slavery organisation, and she's been doing a lot of work because her family were plantation owners. They owned people. And she's been to, I think it's Barbados, to actually speak with people there. So
Grenada.
Grenada, Liz.
Grenada. I do apologise. So it'll be really interesting to hear from her. She's not going to tell us her story again, because that's readily available in many forms, because she was a BBC reporter, a very senior person. You can just Google her name, Laura Trevelyan, Heirs of Slavery. But she's going to talk to us about her new work that she's doing, and she's doing some podcasts working with one of the MPs. I can't remember who it was, Garrett. Can you remember?
Clive Lewis.
Yeah, Clive Lewis MP. So that's, again, something very interesting. So I spoke earlier about the fact that Black History Conversations started after, in that October, after we'd witnessed on many occasions the footage of George Floyd's murder and understand the horrors of racism. And so it's been really important for us to take this along as sensitively as we can and to explore. So yes, back to Christmas at Penryn Castle. So it's really great that you've made such an effort for the community, that people will feel that they want to get engaged, they want to get inside, and hopefully they'll want to know even more about the history of the castle and share their. Garrick?
Just a couple of points, Liz, in relation to Penryn Castle. You've mentioned the fact that access is a big issue for the local community, for school children. Wales apparently are pushing, well, not so much pushing, they have put Black history on the curriculum, which is quite different from England. And so we need to make sure that children, young people, from primary school right through to university have access to this information, the history that sit behind the castle, and it needs to be told. And part of what we're trying to do is to make sure that not just the local community, but also Jamaicans in Wales know about this history.
Thank you very much indeed. And Jamaicans around the world know about this history. And Jackie Pennant, I know you've been along to the castle on your tours to the UK, and I know you've told us about how you felt going into the castle, and a number of other members of the, I've called it the Black Pennant families, have been to the castle. And Kerry, I know that's something that you're very aware of when you have visitors who've actually got direct heritage links to this. So it's a fascinating story. But I wish you all the very, very best for Christmas. And I very much look forward to the new year, and we can look at what the possibilities are. And hopefully, Vivian is going to join us in a moment. Hopefully, we can make some progress on sharing the stories as we explore them through this Tithe project. So that'll be really good. Vivian.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Liz. To thank Miss Osbourne and Miss Williams for their presentation. And I hasten to ask Miss Osbourne where in Jamaica her parents came from.
Hello. My mother is from Kingston.
Wow.
Trenchtown. And
I taught there.
She came over in '63. My father,
Yes.
who is dead, he was from Preston Hill, St. Mary's.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow.
So he was, I claim through my father being from St. Mary's Parish, the spirit of Taki.
Yes, of course.
Began in St. Mary's and
Of course, yes.
with the hope of creating a Black Republic.
Easter, yes, yes.
But it did not come to
It's
pass, but
interesting.
it came pretty close.
It's in the DNA. Thank you very much. And to thank Miss Williams. That's a very popular name in Jamaica. Is Miss Williams from Wales?
Yes, yeah, I'm from Wales. Yeah.
Because from Wales, there's some Williams who came over And one of your descendants then would be Dr. Cicely Williams. You can Google her. She was at Kew Park in Westmoreland, Jamaica, and her father was director of education in Jamaica 1900. But Dr. Cicely Williams went on to Bath, and then she studied, went on to Oxford, got into the university to do medicine. And in her record, she said the only reason why she got in as a woman is because the men were at war. She was a prisoner of war in Japan, and she returned to Jamaica 51 to deal with ackee poisoning. Ackee is a fruit now used as a vegetable. And so it's fortuitous though, Ms. Williams, for this presentation from you, because this year in Jamaica is the 185th anniversary of enslaved being given a surname. Hitherto, they just had a Christian name because, as Alex Renton reminded us on this program, Europeans justified enslavement by saying people of African direct descent were half animal and half human. So they just got a Christian name. So the animals are the same, similar names as the human. So it's fortuitous that you are giving this presentation at this time. And there are a number of penants in Jamaica and Williams who are your relatives, and you should link up with them for a mango, although the mango came from India.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That would be good. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Rose, I'm just going to come to you, but I'm just going to say, Kerry, I was a Williams as well. My dad came from Manor Bridge and John Williams. So, yes.
Well, Jamaica belongs to Liz.
I'm actually originally a Jones.
Liz is Jamaican.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jones. Plenty
Williams
Jones
is my...
Jamaica as well, I think.
Yeah,
Liz
yes,
is
probably.
Jamaican. No, Liz is Jamaican.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Vivian. Rose?
It was just a quickie, two things. Kerry, I was actually in Penryn Castle recently, so but missed obviously your preparations for Christmas, which is a shame. It's a really very interesting place to visit, and now I know a lot more about its history, and hopefully we'll dive in yet again. But thank you for the presentation, and I, as I say, I wish I could see all those wonderful things in those rooms. And I have to say that it was interesting to hear Dr. Crawford actually talk about Moravians, because guess who I went to a Moravian school in St. Elizabeth for when I was 7. I went for 2.5 years. And actually it was a great experience.
Which school was this?
Carisbrooke.
Really?
Yes.
So your principal was Miss Irwin?
Way back
Mavis
when.
Irwin?
Way back when. Even
yes,
before.
Mavis Irwin?
Yes, way back. But interestingly, I was born in Paradise. I bet you don't even know that little place.
That's in Westmoreland?
No, it's in St. Elizabeth and not far from the school. So
there's a Paradise in Westmoreland.
Well, there may be, but when I say I was born in Paradise, it's a lovely thing to be able to claim. That's all I could say.
You know Paradise Plum?
What? Of course.
I know Paradise. I know.
Favorite sweet going to school, Vivian.
I've been to Paradise, yeah.
Jonathan, have you been to Paradise in St. Elizabeth?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have a friend whose family come from there, and her grandmother, her granny died, and we took her back to Paradise to bury her.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, there's like about 10 families. That's a bit about it. Oh, such a small world. I was just
thank you, Liz.
So thank you. Yeah.
Well, it's really beautiful to hear the connections, but I know perfectly well that I only have to have 2 Jamaicans together and you find that you're linked in some way. Okay.
Totally.
I'm linked in some way to you as well, Kerry, because of that surname that we we've shared, Williams. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much indeed, Rose. Now I'm going to come back to well, I thank Kerry again. Please stay with us as long as you're able to. Angelina, I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to tell us about your current work and activities.
I don't know. I was just wanted to make a point about the Pennants, and when I was doing my thesis, Richard Pennant, who was later Lord Penrhyn, was actually the chair of the West India Committee up until his death. He died in 1808, but so he was very much instrumental in leading the campaign for the trade and trafficking. I don't really care for the term slave trade, to not to be abolished. He was very, very central to that endeavor, and lobbied the government on behalf of the West India Committee quite vociferously for it not to take place. So, you know, that is certainly one of the legacies of the Penrhyns, and certainly the Pennants were members of the West India Committee, different, you know, relatives way up until past the abolition of slavery. So that's one thing that I noted about the Pennants. In terms of work that I'm doing right now, I'm actually, it's a really very, very difficult process for me. I'm working with Patrick Vernon to write another book. Really, it's on the history of mental health of Black people, the mental health system, not only in the UK, but also in the Caribbean. I know there's lots. I'm not researching it as such as doing that research. I'm trying to bring together as an overview in the first early chapters about mental health and mental institutions in the Caribbean, and also kind of the impact of well, it's going to be kind of the impact of Windrush on mental health, not only people who came over in the 1940s and 50s, but throughout the 70s, 80s, and ending with mental health of people who got caught up in the Windrush scandal. So that's the work that I'm doing now. It's not easy. I've been working on looking at the psychological impact of enslavement on the ancestors. It's not easy work, so it's not going as quickly as I would like, but it's a process, and like with all books, it's a process. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Right, and that was one of the reasons, Angelina, why you linked up with me, I think, through June Elizabeth. I worked, I had the honour of working with Professor Fred Hickling, and his work was just incredible. And I linked with him through ideas that Yasser Safari, the Jamaican poet, had. And he wanted to look at ways that he could help and support. And as you all know, we've just lost Benjamin Zephaniah, and Benjamin was a good friend of Yasser Safari's. They did events and activities together from time to time. But Professor Fred Hickling was an exceptional person. His presentations were something I'd never seen anything like it. He was just such a wonderfully creative, brilliant man, and we were devastated when he passed. And at one stage, I was actually promoting his books. So I think that Garfield Robinson, I think I've sent you an email to say that Garfield Robinson may have some copies of his considerably thick publications. The book on historiography, psychohistoriography, is a slimmer volume, and the Carimensa publications a slimmer volume, but there are some seriously heavy materials he wrote. And then when I first was introduced to our colleagues June Elizabeth and Garrick Prayog from looking at the Windrush compensation issues and the need to support, we actually contacted Hilary Robertson Hickling, his wife, and she did I think 6 or 10 maybe workshop sessions to support the people who, like June Elizabeth and Garrick, who are working with people who are going through this horrendous process of applying for compensation for the dreadful challenges they've been put through by the British government to do with Windrush, what we call Windrush now. So Angelina, if there's anything I can do, I'd be just only too happy to help in any way and make links for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd appreciate everything you mentioned about Garfield Robinson you hadn't sent through. I'd really appreciate if you would send me that list, but we can speak offline.
Yes, okay. I'll try and track down and see if I can find any information about the conferences we did. We worked with a couple of local health authorities, and I remember doing a conference with him in the Museum of Slavery. Is it in the Docklands? That Docklands Museum. That was one of the events that we did there.
Slavery Gallery, probably.
Yeah. Okay then. So not sure which order this is in. I think Garrett, you had your hand up first, and then June Elizabeth.
Yes, maybe it might be a good idea, Liz, to direct Angelina to those episodes that we were exploring, those sessions with Dr. Hillary, talking around intergenerational.
I'm not sure if we recorded them.
Oh, well, yeah.
I don't think we recorded those. No.
You were exploring the intergeneration trauma over a 10-week period. And, you know, a lot of the Windrush issues came up. But I thought they were recorded. I didn't realize that those sessions weren't recorded for reference. Yeah.
I'll check and see. Thank you so much. I think we did it as a sort of like over the summer break time, didn't we? We finished doing the regular sessions in July, and then we kept going till September. June Elizabeth, you were next, and then Rose.
Thank you. I believe the last session we had taped. It was a special session. Maybe you might find something on there. I just wanted to say to Angelina that you know, Mr. Hickling, Liz, was it Fred? Was it Fred Hickling?
Fred, yes.
Professor Fred Hickling, yeah.
Professor Fred Hickling. He was a mentor to my cousin, right?
Oh.
So I don't know if I can link you with her. I'll find out from her. She's a Jamaican living in England, and she's a forensic psychiatrist consultant, and she's done a bit of work on, you know, what you're researching, and you know, the fact that she was she's like Fred Hickling's prodigy, yeah, and she lives in Sutton Coldfield, but at the moment I believe she's like the director in charge of the mental health of Avon and Somerset, but she lives in Sutton Coldfield. Her name's Dr. Carol McDaniel. And then she's got Edwards added on as her married name, but I think she works under Dr. Carol McDaniel, and Edwards is her husband's name. Yes.
Okay.
And his dad was Judge Edwards in Kingston. So maybe Dr. Vivian Crawford knew of him.
Okay, all right. I think just before you come in, Rose, I'm just going to say what's fascinating about the conversations is now that, as I think we've got more confident, that there's people make links when they join the sessions. And Kerry, I'm just aware of you joining us from the National Trust. Just to explain that Dr. Vivian Crawford's recently retired as Chief Executive of the Institute of Jamaica, which is a highly prestigious organisation that manages across the history and cultural side of the sides of things with the library and well, you could tell us all about it, Vivian, but I'm just going to say, but we've also got Dr. Jonathan Greenland with us, and Dr. Jonathan Greenland's Director of the Museums of Jamaica. He actually comes from Penarth in South Wales, and Jonathan also would have links with the National Trust in Jamaica, and that was always one thing I thought would be great, would be to see if we could link the two national trusts together. So with the three of you on my screen, I've got you sort of in a row like this, you know, I can count you off. So we'll look at that, Kerry. All right, Rose, over to you.
That sounds great.
I'm fascinated by all of that last set of conversations. I'm going, wow, I'm going to Jamaica next month. I'm going to be trying to get into all of these places, and whilst I'm there. But I was absolutely struck by the work, Angelina, that you've done, but particularly what you're doing, because I've just self-published a book called British Caribbean Veterans, Serving Queen and Country, and thinking of that whole mental health issue. It's and my focus has been those who've served since 1960, and this I'm torn with this Windrush generation thing. I find the label really problematic in my head. I am struggling with it. So if anybody can help me with that, that's fine. I'd appreciate it, because these people were not born in 1948. They didn't come over on the ship, all that stuff, but they have served since 1960. And in the conversations that I've been honoured to have with the 32 veterans, men and women, from the three main branches, Navy, RAF and Army, it's clear to me that undiagnosed PTSD is there, and they acknowledge that, a number of them. But other communities that I have worked with, other people from Caribbean people I've worked with in my first book, Breaking Through Racist Clouds, both from a 14-year-old right through to a 70+ year old person, that within that, and I talk about that in the book that I mentioned, this sort of PTSD theme, if you like, some sort of, the trauma, which is based in all sorts, the roots of which are all over, they are there. I'm certainly really interested in where you go with the research you're going to be doing. And if there's anything from the people I've been writing about, whose stories I've collected and collated and published, it would be my pleasure to share that with you, because I know some of them would be very happy to have conversations with you, if that's an area of interest.
That's very generous of you, Rose. Thank you very much. I'm going to see if I can get your contact details through Liz,
Sure.
and have a conversation about it.
And by the way, Dr. Crawford and Dr. Greenland and anybody from Jamaica, I'm there in a couple of weeks' time, so it would be my pleasure. I could bring a book, if you'd like me to post, if I'd love to have it in the library there. It's going to be in our library over here, or libraries actually, Wales, the British Library, of course, and the Bodleian and what have you, but Jamaica.
So I think that's a great point, Rose, and let's pick up on that, and then we'll come back to you again, Angelina. Vivian, it would be great if you could, if Rose could make arrangements to meet with you, and she's going to bring you a copy of the book, and she's going to bring one for the library, aren't you, Rose?
Okay.
That would be great.
Will we?
And I was talking last week with Rose and
Sure.
saying it would be because this is about the servicemen from the Caribbean, it would be a really wonderful thing if Rose was able to take time out of her her visit to make a presentation about her book. I don't know if you do book launches with the National Library, or if you could make any arrangements around about that. I'm
It
putting you
might
on the
be,
spot
the
here.
notice would be too short, but surely you could share my number with dear Rose, and I would link up with the head of the National Library. She was born in England, Coventry, Jamaican parents, Beverly Lashley. So there you go. And that building, Rose, is where Mary C. Cole grew up. It's
Wonderful.
now the headquarters of the National Library. And
Okay.
beside it is the Institute of Jamaica, where King William IV stayed when he came as a prince and signed the Act for Abolition of Slavery, 1834.
Wow.
So you'll be walking in his footsteps. Oops.
Perfect.
And Mary C. Cole.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm actually hoping to meet somebody from the Legion over there, the Jamaica Legion as well.
Okay.
So,
Oh, so you're going up to the army. You're going up to the.
well, I've got his contact details. He knows that he's going to find time for me, and I'm taking a book. Liz, I'm not packing any clothes. You understand? It'll be just the
They have
book.
shops in Jamaica. Don't worry, they have shops.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, just
Tell,
take books.
tell Rose that patties are available.
Hey, homemade, I hope, or
No, juicy and
juicy,
tasty.
juicy. Yeah,
Juicy
I know
and tasty. And
Yeah.
cocoa bread and
Oh,
gato.
I'm there. I've already got mine.
I think this sounds great. It will be great to make these contacts, and also with Jonathan Greenland, so that you can make sure that you visit the Museum of Jamaica and can discuss with him possibilities. Garrick, you've had your hand up.
Rose, how long are you staying in Jamaica?
I'm going on the 3rd and back on the 24th. 3
Okay.
weeks.
I thought you would be there in February, but no, you'll be back then. So
Yeah, I'll be back.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry. I was just thinking what you just mentioned about Windrush and the language, because Windrush is 1948 onwards. So prior to that, we're talking about West Indian community and West Indian people, and so often you'll find that many people don't connect with Windrush because their parents were here before Windrush. So they're just, West Indian. And it was later, before we started to use Caribbean, Caribbean come much later in terms of how we addressed those communities. But I was also a point for Angelina in relation to the mental health. So I work with Dr. Lade Smith, who is the president for the Royal College of Psychiatry. And she's also a practice, she practiced in Moseley and South London, which are very well internationally recognized. So I would suggest, because we often have conversation when I go down I'm one of their advisory member. We often have conversation around blackness and black issues. But historically, if you want a sort of historic line, it may well have a conversation, because we've talked about a number of issues relating to the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, even before she was practicing. But in terms of the narrative around mental health, she can give you that narrative.
Thank you very much, Garrick. I appreciate that. I will be getting, as I sort of work on conceptualizing what it is. I'll definitely. It's a struggle at the moment, but as I said, it's part of the process. You know, especially I'm not a specialist. I'm not an expert in mental health. I'm looking at it really as a historian. So I welcome any support or suggestions that are being given to me today. I'm very grateful for that. I wanted to say something about Windrush. You made a point about Windrush being. I mean, some people saying people who came before, but you know, there's people who came after so-called Windrush who have established communities here as well. There's something's happened where it's kind of been established that Windrush means from 48 till 1971 for some reason. And I don't know if that has to do with immigration policy. But I mean, I think I personally think, it's my personal opinion, it's another example of the hijacking and misappropriation of the term Windrush. You know, my parents came over in the 60s. I wouldn't describe them as Windrush generation. I really do think it's a term that the press, the media has sort of adopted so that people now identify. And it's just, I think there's a lot of people in the communities and Black British communities who really take issue with this term. But because it's, they keep calling it, for example, the Windrush scandal. It is not a Windrush scandal. It is a Home Office scandal. It's a Home Office issue. It's an immigration issue. And but people tend to want to kind of adopt this term. They find it more recognizable for you to say Windrush, but I think that's really misleading and personally and incorrect. And also we have to think about, people came over in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, well, not just from the Caribbean, they're also from the African continent as well. What do we, how do we, where do they're part of that migration movement as well. And even before that, well-established communities in the UK who are of African, who came from the African continent, West African countries, even Southern African countries, as well as people coming from the Caribbean and South America as well. So it can be thought of as a little bit lazy to kind of bunch everybody in together of a very, very sort of complex and layered kind of history. Just my.
I think it's very right what you say, Angelina, and there's so much more to explore and recognise of this history. And it's really interesting that you, as a historian, are looking at the history of the mental health, and I'll be very happy to help in any way. We're going to wrap up just shortly, but I just wanted to share the screen as well. Thank you so much, Angelina, for your comments. It's really significant. Just to say that Garrick was making me aware that the Windrush 100 network launch reception was in Westminster last week, and there's Patrick Vernon speaking and launching that. But also to say that we had this information from Audrey Doogie, who's been doing research into service people, and this may have some relevance to what we've been talking about. It made me recall that one of our North Wales Jamaica Society members, Karen Cross, her husband, her dad, Jimmy Mullins, had come from Jamaica and been in the Air Force, and he ended up working at RAF Valley on Anglesey and ended up living on Anglesey, and hence she's in North Wales. And we did check with Audrey, and yes, in fact, he was one of these recruits who came from the West Indies and must have had the most difficult time. When Karen shared her story, it was really very, very significant. So I just wanted to share those two bits with you as up-to-dating things. Okay, well, I just want to say thank you very much indeed. Thank you for all of you for joining. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Angelina. It was absolutely excellent to meet you. And it's about making friends as well, and getting to know people and having links, and you know who's who. So thank you so much. Thank you very much, Vivian Crawford, Dr. Vivian Crawford, and Dr. Jonathan Greenland. It's great to have you joining us from Jamaica early in the morning. Jackie Pennant, I don't know if you're around and about or still making a cup of coffee. Jacqueline, it's been great that you've joined us as well. And Jacqueline has been very interested in what we're doing. And Jacqueline, I hope when we get to this point of going over to Jamaica, you may be able to join us. You may be able to join us when Jamaicans are back in Wales, and that would be great because we'll be coming along to Penryn Castle and Kerry. We've put in a tithe application. I have to say it was the hardest application I've ever done. It was so long. But tithe is a Welsh word. Tithe means journey. And it's about the application is to enable a cohort from North Wales to do a research visit to Jamaica, to Pennants and the other plantations, Cupis and Kings Valley and Denbigh and the other pens as well. So that will be fascinating to get that research, so that we'll be able to hopefully put that together as an online course, or a range of online courses, which may be of real use to your volunteers and people as we're able to find this information, because it's about understanding more about Black history is fine if you understand it, but understanding it and sharing it is another issue. And in some little way in Black History Conversations, we started out learning, and we realised we need to do a bit more on the sharing side. So that's for our future plans. But that'll be really good. And then if plans go to, if we get this funding and we get to Jamaica in May, then we'll be back over with Jamaican colleagues in June. Now, this is to fit in with the end of the school years as well, because we want to encourage some school linking going on, which is also possible through tithe, and some youth linking as well. So we'll be looking forward to June, which will also be when it's Windrush Day. So I've just been talking with Garrick earlier about applying for some funds to do something. And Vivian, do you remember last year we talked about Windrush Day, leaving that? This is specifically, Angelina, I'm aware I'm talking about the ship Windrush. The ship left Kingston, and then we held the sessions each week until the ship docked in Tilbury last year for the 75th anniversary. So it would be interesting, Vivian, with this funding application. I want to put it in again to look at the links with Jamaica. So I know that I can't remember his name, Rudy Page was over doing things
Correct.
last
Rudy
year.
Page, yes.
Rudy Page. So I thought we might try and get some funding to explore the two sides of the story, because recognizing what you're saying, Angelina, we need to recognize that this was a one-off thing, that this ship brought so many people at once, and then the name of the ship's been used to describe people who came from the countries of the empire to Britain, but that's not the whole story anything like. So the better we understand it, the better we might put it into context. So that's my weekend activity, writing that bid. So I'm going to apply under English funding, Kerry. This is interesting, because the Welsh government, bless their cotton socks, they don't get around to putting out the Welsh opportunities for Windrush Day funding until about 2 weeks before the event. In England, the closing date is Sunday, so we need to get our act together on that. But I've contacted them and they say it's all right. Our organisation, Learning Links International, CIC, as long as we've got an office in England, we'll be okay. So I'm sure we're going to have our office in one of your homes, June, Elizabeth or Garrick, wherever we decide, because it would be great to have some funding, especially to look at that challenge, because Vivian, as you told me last year, there'd been very little done in Jamaica to recognise the many people who left Jamaica, particularly at that time and subsequently, like your parents, Angelina. Okay, then, so that's what I'm up to next. So I'm sure you're all busy. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Kerry, thank you for your time. June, Elizabeth, Vivian, Jonathan, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a good weekend.
Lovely.
Yes,
Angelina.
loud. Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Bye-bye.
We're sending parties.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm coming to get mine.
yes, yes. On hard bread.
Yes,
Ah, no bread.
and
A chocolate tea.
and a
Chocolate
nice
tea.
a nice pear.
Nice
Oh,
beer.
yes.
Out of season at the moment.
Rose,
Yeah, but
Rose
you
is
have to
not
wait
calling
till
it
April, May.
avocado.
You can
Rose.
always find one and a good dumpling.
Aye. Cornmeal.
Have a safe journey, Rose.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Have a great Christmas.
Yes,
Bye.
Rose, have a great,
Bye-bye,
great
Liz.
time
Bye-bye.
and stay in touch with us. Okay, bye.
One
Bye.
love.
Scotch bonnet,
Bye.
Scotch bonnet,
Bye.
Scotch bonnet.
What a lovely
And-
session, Vivian. It's been really, really a
Oh,
pleasure.
wonderful. Thank you, Liz. God bless you.
I
You
did
are our
find the
cement.
photos.
You are
All
our
right, then.
cement. Thank you.
Okay, all the best then.
All
Bye.
for the
Bye.
best. Goodbye.